Longini Board Secretary of the Chicago Transit Board. On January 7th, 2022, Governor J.B. Pritzker issued a disaster proclamation. Longini Board declaring the Secretary of the Chicago Transit Board disaster area. On January 7th, 2020, pursuant to the amendment to the Open Meetings Act, the chairman's determination that it is not prudent at this time to conduct an in-person meeting, CTA will conduct its Wednesday board meeting remotely without the requirement for physical quorum. With that, we're ready to begin the Committee on Strategic Planning and Service Delivery. Chairman Irvine. Chairman Irvine.
Good morning, everyone. I'm right here. Press the wrong key. I would like to call to order the January 12th, 2022 meeting of the Committee on Strategic Planning and Service Delivery. Greg, would you please call the roll?
Of course. Director Barkley.
Present.
Director Miller.
Here.
Chairman Irvine.
I'm here.
Great. We have a quorum of the committee with 3 members present. And let the record
Thank you, Greg.
hold on one second. Let the record show that General Counsel Karen Simons, Chief Financial Officer Jeremy Fine, and myself are all at 567 West Lake Street in the headquarters building, and the other board members are also attending this meeting. All right, guys.
Thanks, Greg. Before we begin the meeting, Board Chairman Lester Barkley would like to say a few words. Chairman Barkley.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Irvine, and good morning, everyone. Before we start the Strategic Planning Committee meeting, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge and welcome a new member of our board, Rosa Ortiz, who was appointed by Governor Pritzker. Director Ortiz is a certified planner and LEED accredited professional. She's an experienced and inclusive leader in the areas of urban planning, architecture, and community development. Director Ortiz provides valuable expertise in sustainable initiatives, racial equality, and real estate development. She offers over 2 decades of service in the public, corporate, and nonprofit sectors. She previously served the City of Chicago in the role of Managing Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Housing. Prior to that, she led teams at Enterprise Community Partners, Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, Hispanic Housing Development Corporation, and Urban Works. Director Ortiz is an active member of national collaborations through Elevated Chicago. She's also a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners, American Planning Association, Arquitectos, Arquintinas organizations, and is a board member of the Hispanic Housing Development Corporation. On behalf of the board, welcome, and we look forward to working with you. President Carter, would you like to say a few words to welcome Director Ortiz?
Thank you, Chairman. I also want to welcome Director Ortiz to the CTA board. I am blessed with one of the best boards any CEO could have, and as a CEO, I also recognize the benefits of having a board that not only is supportive of what I try to do as an agency, but also brings skills to the table that allow us to make the product that we're putting out even better than it would have been without them. And I believe Director Ortiz, based on both their professional and public career, is well positioned to assume that mantle. And I think she's a terrific addition to the board. I want to thank the governor and his team for identifying such a capable person to join our board. And I look forward to working with her as we move the agenda forward for CTA. Thank you.
Thank you, President Carter. Director Ortiz, would you like to say a few words?
I would. I just want to say I am honored and humbled to be part of this team. I have always respected the leadership at hand, so it is an honor to be working with all of you, both on the staff, the leadership, and the board. And I am eager and excited to serve our city of Chicago and our suburbs through this work and be able to really improve the lives of all of the residents of the city. So thank you for the opportunity. I look forward to learning and serving with you.
Thank you. I'll now turn it back to Director Irvine to commence the Strategic Planning Committee meeting.
Thank you, Chairman Barclay. And Director Ortiz, I appreciate the chance to chat with you this week. I think you're going to be a terrific addition to the board. It's great to have an urban planner on our team. And you've got some terrific experience, I think is making you extremely well suited for this position. So welcome aboard, and I'm looking forward to working with you.
Thank you.
So our next order of business, our first order of business today is the approval of the May 2021 committee minutes. We need a motion to approve.
So moved.
I second.
Moved by Director Miller, second by Director Irvine. I'll take a roll call vote on the minutes. Director Barkley,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Chairman Irvine.
Yes,
That motion is approved with 3 yes votes.
thank you. Our next order of business is a review of an ordinance authorizing an additional experiment for bus route number 31 31st Street. Mike Conley.
Good morning. I'm Mike Conley, your Chief Planning Officer. This ordinance is actually an ordinance authorizing name changes for bus routes 146 and 147. Before you today is an ordinance which would authorize the renaming of 2 bus routes, the number 146 and the 147. As you know, the city of Chicago has renamed Lakeshore Drive to honor Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable. The renaming of the bus route 147 will bring that route name in line with the renamed street on which it operates. The renaming of bus route 146 will bring the name of that route, which operates on the inner Lakeshore Drive, into a parallel naming convention with the number 147. This renaming will assist our customers with logic and wayfinding and will help our riders understand the streets where these routes operate. Thank you. I'm glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Thanks, Mike. I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you. I think I may have the wrong script.
Yes, I'll address that in a minute. Any questions just from Dr. Miller?
No question.
Any questions from Director Barkley?
No questions.
All right, we can move on. There's no further questions on this one, Director Irvine. So we just need,
And Greg, just to confirm, there's no further business, correct?
yes, there's no further questions on this item, but we need a motion to put this on the omnibus.
Now I have a motion. May I now have a motion to place this item in the omnibus for approval?
So moved.
Second.
And even, okay, Director Irvine, I just noticed that I made a mistake here. Unfortunately, at last May's agenda on here, so the 2 that are coming up next are not correct on your script. So we need to ask Mike to explain what the next ordinance is. I'm very sorry about that, sir. Mike, which is the next ordinance that you're going to be covering here? Is there another one?
No, that's it. Just the one
That's it.
ordinance. Yeah, just the one ordinance is all.
I'm very, very sorry.
Okay,
Okay, Kevin. We just need,
Okay. Since there is no further business to come before the committee, may I have a motion to recommend board approval of the omnibus?
So moved.
And I second.
all right, let me take a vote on that motion. Director Barkley,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Chairman Irvine.
Yes.
All right, that motion is approved. And again, I apologize for your script, which included incorrect notice. Thank you.
No worries at all. And finally, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And I second.
All right, Director Barkley,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Chairman Irvine.
Yes.
That motion is approved with 3 yes votes, and so we're finished with strategic planning. We can now move on to finance, audit, and budget. Director Silva?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I would like to call to order the January 12, 2022 meeting of the Committee on Finance, Audit, and Budget. Will the secretary call the roll?
Yes, I'll be happy to. Director Miller?
Here.
Director Jakes?
Here.
Director Irvine?
Right here.
Director Barkley?
Here.
Director Silva?
Here.
We have a quorum of the committee with 6 members present, but let the record show that new Director Ortiz who cannot vote at this meeting as she's not yet a member, will be attending the meeting. Thank you. Continue, Director, Chairman.
Our first order of business is the approval of the committee minutes of December 15, 2021. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I second.
I'll take a roll call vote. Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Jakes,
Yes.
Director Irvine,
Yes.
Director Barkley,
Yes.
Chairman Silva.
Yes.
We have a quorum with all 6 members of the board present. And, Director Ortiz as well. I'm sorry, you're not. Yeah, I knew it was going to be difficult. We have a quorum with 6 members. I'm sorry. We're on the minutes. The minutes are approved with 5 yes votes. I apologize. 5 yes votes, sir. We can continue to number 3.
Our next order of business is the finance report. Jeremy, good morning.
Morning, I'm Jeremy Fine, your Chief Financial Officer, and I'll be reviewing the results for the month of November, as well as year-to-date numbers. As you can see on the next page, November revenues follow a similar form of what we've seen over the past several months. Fair and pass totals coming in slightly below budgeted expectations, about $500,000 below the amended budget, and about $4.5 million below the original budget. Reduced fare subsidy coming in as expected. However, this has been cut in half from prior years of what we've received. And it also is well below what we actually give in free and reduced fare rides. Non-fare box totals continue to perform well. We see positive variance of about 1.2 million to the amended budget and about 500,000 to the original budget. That leaves us for the month of November versus the amended budget positive by about $700,000 and negative to the original budget by about $4.1 million. On the next page, you see year-to-date numbers. Again, following a similar form of what we talked about for November, we see fare and pass totals down to the amended budget by about $5.4 million and by about $200,000 to the original budget. Reduced fare subsidy coming in again as expected. We see non-fare box totals positive to the amended budget by about $1.6 million and down to the original budget by about 11.5. That leaves us year to date with regard to our revenues, on a percentage basis, relatively flat, but down by about $4 million to the amended budget and down by about $12 million to the original budget. As you can see on the next page, we continue to keep very tight controls on our expenses, and where we see positive variance across the board here for the month of November. Labor coming in positive on the amended budget and original budget basis by about $800,000. Materials coming in positive by over $200,000. Fuel and power continue to be very strong performers for us, coming in about $600,000 and $900,000 respectively. Injuries and damages coming in as expected. Security services coming in slightly positive. And other expenses continues to be a strong performer for us, where we see about $2.4 million variance to the amended budget and about $1.7 million to the original budget. That leaves us for the month of November, positive on our expenses by about $5.4 million to the amended budget and by about $4.7 million to the original budget. If you net this against our revenues, we end up the month of November positive by about 6.1 versus the amended budget and by about $600,000 versus the original budget. As you can see here on the page with regard to our year-to-date expenses, they're following a similar form, positive variance on labor, slightly negative on materials, but positive through the rest of the line items here for fuel, power, security services, and other expenses. That leaves us on a year-to-date basis positive on an expense basis to the amended budget, positive by about $49 million. We're also positive to the original budget by about $57 million. If you net this against our revenues, we're positive to the amended budget by about $45 million and positive to the original budget by about $48 million. These positive variances, coupled with the public funding results that we see on the next page, continues to to bolster our overall position. Public funding revenues, you see here, continue to be strong based on sales tax receipts in the derivative of public transportation funds that we receive from the state. Real estate transfer taxes, PTF on rent, and ICE funding complete the public funding cohort. And we see overall favorability to the amended budget by about $22.5 million. Versus the original budget, we see positive variance of about $30.5 million. On the next page, you see how this rolls up on a year-to-date basis. Again, very strong performance in the overall economy as evidenced by the sales tax receipts. We see positive variance year-to-date for our public funding versus the amended budget by about $185 million. And to the original budget by almost $230 million. These factors, again, coupled with the positive variance that we see on our system-generated revenues and expenses, has allowed us to carry the critical federal funding further than we had originally anticipated. As you see on the next page, in fact, we still have some CARES funding remaining, about $33 million remaining. We're estimating to draw about $7 million for the month of November. So we estimate that this balance will carry us into December and potentially a little bit beyond, depending on the necessary draws as we complete the books for 2021. After those funds are extinguished, we'll start drawing down CRISA and ARP funding. But as we talked about in our budget process for 2022, we expect those funds to carry us through 22, through 23, and into 24 based on our current assumptions. We are also actively competing for additional ARP discretionary funds. We're the only entity regionally that was able to compete for those funds, and we should know the result of that grant application by March. If we receive any allocation of that ARP discretionary funding, that will be additive to the numbers that you see here and could carry us further into 2024 and even potentially into 25. But we'll continue to keep the board apprised as to the process and progress of that grant application and the outcome. With regard to the three commodities that we purchased, fuel, power, and natural gas, we were able to make some selective purchases based on the news of Omicron breaking. We saw a slight dip in oil prices. We were able to lock in about 20% of our 2023 volume, as well as 10% of our volume for 24 and 5. We'll again look for selective opportunities to buy additional fuel. But as you probably can tell from the pump, when you fuel up your own vehicle, prices are quite volatile today. And then power and natural gas, we remain locked in for the foreseeable future, but we will continue to look for selective opportunities to make additional purchases in those commodities as well. That concludes my formal remarks for November FAB. Glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jeremy. Chairman Silva, do you have any questions for Jeremy on the finance report?
Yes. In the recovery ratio, we see an unfavorable by 15.34 percentage points. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so the recovery ratio, we have to meet that as a requirement as a region to continue to receive the critical state funding dollars that we receive in the form of our public funding. We have worked with the RTA and the other service boards to allow temporary, waiver of that requirement so that those funds can continue to be received by the service boards, in light of the fact that the pandemic and the related impacts to our, ridership-related revenues are making it more difficult for the service boards to achieve that number. So again, we have received some temporary relief for that, and we'll continue to assess that along with RTA and the other service boards as to what additional modifications may need to be made. But we did get that additional waiver so that we're able to continue to comply with the requirements, but understanding that the impact of COVID has had on our ability to generate system-generated revenues to the tune of 50% regionally of our overall revenues.
Is that
Director Silva, before
go
you
ahead.
go on, let me just add a little bit more to what Jeremy just said about the recovery ratio. Separate and apart from the RTA granting us the waiver, we also have gotten legislative relief down in Springfield to waive the recovery ratio for a number of years. It's a recognition of the fact that the recovery ratio itself is going to be out of whack until our revenue start to return, and our revenue isn't likely to return until our ridership returns. And so there has been recognition of the fact that all the service boards are unable to meet their recovery ratios, as are transit systems throughout the state. And so we are optimistic that over the course of the next several years, we'll get our ridership and revenues back up to where they should be to allow the recovery ratio to be properly met pursuant to our statute.
But meanwhile, okay, how are you going to be treating, okay, the recovery ratio?
Meanwhile, we'll be reporting it as we currently do as a negative number, but with the understanding that that negative number does not impact the funding that we receive from the state, and to some degree it's reflective of the additional federal funding that we're receiving that's allowing us to fill the gap between the revenue that we should be receiving if we were having normal ridership and our expenses. And recognize that the purpose of the recovery ratio was really to make sure that we didn't allow our expenses to get out of whack with our revenues. So as a practical matter, when you have a pandemic, your ridership drops to 20% of what it's supposed to be, there's no way the recovery ratio is going to perform the balance that it's supposed to. And I think that's what the legislature has recognized, and that's what RTA has recognized, which has allowed us to do what we're doing right now. At some point in time, that statutory requirement will kick in again, but we believe at that point we will recover financially to be in a position to properly manage it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Barkley, do you have any questions?
I do not.
All right, Director Miller.
Yeah, Jeremy, on the discretionary fund, we're not competing, right, with that proposal that we have in, that we don't have to compete.
With regard to the ARP discretionary funding, that is a pot of funds of $2.2 billion that we will be competing with other transit agencies around the country for the ability to tap into that fund. But there was a caveat to that, in that you had to be able to compete for those funds, you had to have spent down over 90% of your CARES funding by November. And we were the only agency regionally that was able to comply with that portion of the mandate. So that puts us in a unique position regionally to compete for those limited ARP discretionary dollars.
Okay, that's what I meant. Thank you.
Director Jakes?
No questions. Thank you.
Sure. Director Irvine?
No questions. Thank you.
Director Ortiz, any questions on the finance report?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Chairman Silver, we may proceed to agenda number 4.
Our next order of business is the review of an ordinance authorizing a co-promotional advertising trade agreement with Bank of America for the 2022 Bank of America Shamrock Shuffle. Jeremy Fine.
Thank you, and good morning. I'm Jeremy Fine, your Chief Financial Officer. Today, I present for your consideration an ordinance authorizing a co-promotional agreement with Bank of America for the 2022 Shamrock Shuffle. This year's Shamrock Shuffle will take place on Sunday, March 20th. Through this co-promotion, Bank of America will provide CTA with certain promotional consideration, including CTA travel information on the race website and an email blast to participants and volunteers, as well as space for the CTA Community Connections bus on the site for race day. The total value of the package Bank of America is offering CTA is $15,000. In exchange, CTA will offer Bank of America of up to $12,992 in unsold interior car card advertising on CTA bus and rail, which will be used by the bank to promote the Shamrock Shuffle. Bank of America has already purchased advertising on the system in the amount of $12,992 as well. And the agreement includes an indemnification clause which protects either party from misusing the other's intellectual property, logos, or proprietary marks. CTA has partnered with the Bank of America or its predecessor to cross-promote the CTA and the Shamrock Shuffle since 2004. No race was held in 2020, and the 2021 race was held virtually. I'm glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Jeremy. Chairman Silva,
No, I don't have a question.
Director Barkley,
No questions.
Director Miller,
No question.
Director Jakes.
Question, Jeremy. So I want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. The CTA is poised to make a little bit less than $3,000 from this shaking of the hands between Bank of America and CTA?
Well, CTA and the bank agreed to have cross promotion, of up to $15,000. So what we get is we get $15,000 worth of advertising space or value through their email blast, through their race website, as well as the community connections bus on site for race day. And in return, they get the value of $12,992 in unsold car card space on our bus and rail system. And it's also important to note that the bank also buys an allotment of advertising in addition to that of the same value of $12,992. So what they end up getting is basically doubling their advertising value. But in return, we get an equal amount of what we give away and actually a little bit more value through their platform, through their advertising platform. So it's a fair trade with us coming out a little bit ahead, so to speak, in the fact that they also buy an additional allotment of advertising in addition to what they're getting for the swap.
Do we see ridership go up during that time?
Yes, we do. Yeah, over the course of this agreement, and going back to 2004 in this case, but we also do these co-promotions with DCASE or with the bank as well on the marathon, other entities. Yes, these are good riding days. Mike Conley may have more specific information on the ridership, but yes, we see ridership for participants going up, as well as friends and family that may be attending the event with the participant.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy.
Director Irvine,
No questions.
Director Ortiz.
No question.
Thank you. Chairman Silva, there are no further questions on agenda item number 4.
Our next order of business is
Chairman, Chairman, we need to get this on the omnibus, please.
Since there is no further question, may I have leave to place this item on the omnibus for board approval?
So moved.
I second.
Moved by Director Miller, second by Director Irvine. We may now proceed to agenda item number 5, Chairman.
Our next order of business is the review of an ordinance authorizing a purchase and sale agreement with Sterling's Racing LLC for the sale of authority property located at 120 North Racine Avenue, Chicago, Illinois. Bill Mooney.
Good morning, Bill Mooney, your Chief Infrastructure Officer. Staff recommends approval of an ordinance authorizing a purchase and sale agreement with Sterling Racine for the sale of CTA property located at 120 North Racine. Sterling Racine LLC leases 84,879 square feet on the first and second floors of the authority-owned property at 120 North Racine under a master lease agreement authorized under ordinance number 015-88, which includes a right of first refusal to purchase the property. The CTA board authorized staff to negotiate the sale of the property under ordinance number 020-094, and CTA has negotiated a favorable purchase and sales agreement with Sterling Racine. Under the purchase and sales agreement, Sterling will develop a new control center and training complex in exchange for the property. Sterling will deposit $35 million in escrow to be used towards the project. The purchase and sales agreement further calls for Sterling Racine to enter into a leaseback agreement with CTA to remain on the 120 North Racine property until the new facility is available, as well as to enter into a development agreement with CTA for the project. I'm happy to take any questions at this time.
Thank you, Bill. Chairman Silva, any questions for Bill?
No, I don't have a question.
Director Barkley,
No questions.
Director Miller,
No questions.
Director Jakes,
No questions.
Director Irvine,
No questions.
Director Ortiz.
No questions.
Thank you. Chairman Silva, there are no further questions on number 5.
Since there are no further questions, may I have leave to place this item on the omnibus for board approval?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. We may now proceed to agenda item number 6.
Our next order of business is the review of an ordinance authorizing an amendment to a sublease between Sterling Racine LLC for the sale of authority property located at 120 North Racine Avenue, Chicago, Illinois. Bill Mooney.
Bill Mooney, your Chief Infrastructure Officer again. Staff recommends approval of an ordinance authorizing an amendment to a sublease between Sterling Racine LLC and Ship Bob Inc. for property located at 120 North Racine Avenue. On August 12, 2015, the Transit Board approved a 10-year lease with Sterling Racine for 84,879 square feet on the first and second floors of the CTA-owned building at 120 North Racine. On February 14, 2018, the board approved a 2-year sublease between Sterling Racine LLC and Ship Bob Inc., with the sublease being amended multiple times since, with the latest per ordinance number 020-120 in December of 2020. Sterling Racine has requested CTA's consent to amend the current sublease with Ship Bob, extending the term of the sublease through July 31st, 2023. Sterling Racine will continue to be responsible for all rent and expenses as set forth in the lease agreement, including its proportionate share of the building and operating expenses and all applicable taxes and utility fees. Sterling Racine is required to obtain CTA's consent prior to subleasing, which cannot be unreasonably withheld. I'm happy to take any questions on this item.
Thank you, Bill. Chairman Silva,
No questions. Thank you.
Director Barkley,
No questions.
Director Miller,
No questions.
Director Jakes,
No questions.
Director Irvine,
No questions.
Director Ortiz.
No questions.
Thank you. Chairman, there's no on number 7.
Our next order of business is the review
Chairman?
of an or-
Excuse me, Chairman, we need to get this on the omnibus, please.
If there are no further questions, may I have leave to place this item on the omnibus for board approval?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we may now proceed, Chairman, to agenda item number 7.
Our next order of business is the review of an ordinance authorizing the purchase of underground storage tank insurance for policy year January 28, 2022 through January 28, 2023. Steve Wood.
Good morning, Steve Wood, Deputy General Counsel in the CTA's Law Department. We're coming before the board for approval of an insurance policy that would cover the CTA's underground storage tanks. This is a new policy that would be renewed annually and runs from January 28th, 2022 to January 28th, 2023. The CTA has 45 underground storage tanks in multiple locations around the system, and those tanks store over 10,000 gallons of diesel fuel for the CTA's bus fleet. The CTA has been self-insuring the risks associated with leaks or spills from those tanks because the USTs are excluded from the CTA's property insurance policy, as they are from most commercial property insurance policies. The CTA's USTs were installed between 1992 and 2020, and they are regulated by the Office of the State Fire Marshal, which establishes financial requirements for entities that own such tanks. In July 2021, the Fire Marshal required the CTA to secure a certificate of deposit to establish financial responsibility for its tanks. With the CT expiring near the end of January 2022, CTA staff has investigated underground storage tank insurance coverage as an alternative and more prudent method of complying with state regulations. Our insurance broker, Alliant Mesereau, and its DBE Paradigm secured 2 UST insurance quotes for the CTA's business. Both carriers meet the Illinois and US EPA minimum coverage requirements, but one policy had lower costs and a more favorable deductible schedule. So we are recommending purchasing the Iron Shore Liberty Surplus Insurance Policy for an amount not to exceed $30,000 for this coming policy year. The policy provides coverage limits of $1 million per underground storage tank incident and a $2 million policy aggregate. And coverage includes such things as payments for third-party bodily injury and property damage, legal defense costs related to covered claims, and remediation costs to address underground storage tank leaks. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Steve. Chairman Silva?
For how many years have we been using, this policy?
So this is a new policy. We have never had a policy that covered our underground storage tanks yet, and this will be an annual policy as all of our insurance policies are. So 1 year going forward.
So this is the first one that we're gonna have, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Director Barkley?
Steve, have we had any claims in this area in the past 20 years?
We have not. We're not aware of any spills or leaks from any of the 45 USTs that the CTA has installed or uses on its property.
And so being a public entity, what was the fire marshal's rationale for us not being able to remain self-insured?
It's not entirely clear. There are a bunch of different regulations for how you maintain financial responsibility. And we were notified in July that we would have to have a letter of credit or a certificate of deposit in order to go forward. So we put that on in a temporary 6-month fashion and then explored the insurance policy as a means of meeting the regulations. This is something, the insurance policy is something that we have explored in the past with Mesereau Alliant. And it just seems the more prudent way to go forward would be to secure a policy so that we would have the expertise and coverage in case something occurred with the underground storage tanks.
Thank you.
Director Miller?
No questions.
Director Jakes?
No questions for now. Thank you.
Director Irvine?
No questions.
Director Ortiz?
No questions.
Chairman Silva, there are no further questions on the underground storage tank insurance.
If there are no further questions, may I have leave to place this item on the omnibus for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Miller, seconded by Director Irvine. We're finished with the ordinances now, Chairman. We may proceed to the contracts. Let's start with A1.
Our next order of business is a contract number A1, a janitorial service contract.
Any questions, Chairman?
Can you talk about the DBE participation, in these contracts?
So this, go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, Juan Pablo Prieto, Director of Diversity Programs. Mr. Chairman, we set this contract aside under our Small Business Enterprise or SBE program for 100% small business participation. The recommended contractor is also certified as a DBE, so it will be 100% DBE participation as well.
Okay, thank you.
Director Barkley?
No question.
Director Miller?
No question.
Director Jakes?
No questions.
Director Irvine?
Questions.
Director Ortiz?
No questions.
All right, we may now proceed, Chairman, to contract number B as in boy 1.
Our next order of business is contract number B1, an escalator repair parts contract.
Chairman?
I don't have a question.
Director Barkley?
No question.
Director Miller?
No questions.
Director Jakes?
No questions.
Director Irvine?
No questions.
Director Ortiz?
No questions.
Since there's no questions, Chairman, let's move to D as in dog 1.
Our next order of business is contract number D1, a professional and financial advisory services contracts.
Chairman?
What department is going to be handling, okay, these financial advisories?
It'll be both planning and finance.
Okay, thank you.
Director Barkley?
No question.
Director Miller?
No question.
Director Jakes?
No questions.
Director Irvine?
Questions?
Director Ortiz?
No question.
Chairman, let's move on to E as an elephant 1.
Our next order of business is contract number E1, a proposal request for high-performance digital copiers contract. I don't have a questions.
Director Barkley?
No question.
Director Miller?
No question.
Director Jakes?
No questions.
Director Irvine?
Questions?
Director Ortiz?
No question.
All right. Chairman, let's move on to G as in girl 1.
Our final order of business is contract number G1, a change order for customer website maintenance contract. Do we
Chairman?
have very many customer websites, okay, that we have to maintain?
Good morning, directors. This is Caroline Gallagher, your Chief of Technology. We have a number of different websites. Our public website that has the budget and financial information, the procurement information, as well as our bus and train tracker, our system maps, fare information. We also put out public safety
It is actually
service
my
alerts.
computer.
And so, yes, we do. We have quite a few of them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Director Barkley?
No question.
Director Miller?
No questions.
Director Jakes?
No questions.
Director Irvine?
No questions.
Director Ortiz?
No question.
No further questions, Chairman Silva, on the contracts. We may now proceed to number 8A.
Since there are no further questions on the contracts, I have leave to place the 5 contracts on the omnibus.
So move.
And I second.
Moved by Director Miller, seconded by Director Irvine. Chairman, we may now proceed to number 8B as in boy.
Since there is no further business to come before the committee, may I have a motion to approve the omnibus and recommend the omnibus for board approval?
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Directors Miller and Irvine. I will now take a vote on the omnibus. Director Miller?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Irvine?
Yes.
Director Barkley?
Yes.
Chairman Silva?
Yes.
The motion to approve the omnibus passes with 5 yes votes, sir.
And
Number 9.
finally, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Motion to adjourn. Director Miller?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Irvine?
Yes.
Director Barkley?
Yes.
Chairman Silva?
Yes.
The motion to approve to adjourn passes with 5 yes votes. We are now adjourned, and the regular meeting will begin. We need 5 minutes, maybe a little bit more, but shortly. Good morning again. It's Greg Longini of the CTA Board Office again. We are about to begin the regularly scheduled January 2022 meeting. Chairman Barkley.
Good morning. I would like to call
Good
to
morning
order
again.
the
It's Greg
regularly
Longini
scheduled
of
meeting of the
CTA Board
Chicago
Office again. We
Transit
are about
Board
to begin.
for January 12th, 2022. Would the secretary call the roll?
I'd be happy to. Director Miller,
Here.
Director Ortiz,
Here.
Director Irvine,
Here.
Director Silva,
Here.
Director Jakes,
Here.
and Chairman Barkley.
Here.
We have a quorum with all 6 members of the board present, sir.
Thank you. Our first order of business is public comment. Greg?
No, sir, there's no comment today.
Then our next order of business is the approval of the minutes. I will now entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of December 15th, 2020.
So moved. They said 20 or 21.
Right.
Okay.
Second.
Moved by Director Miller, second by Director Irvine. I'll take the vote in the minutes. Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Ortiz,
Abstain.
abstained by Ortiz. Director Irvine,
Yes.
Director Silva,
Yes.
Director Jakes,
Yes.
Chairman Barkley.
Yes.
The minutes are approved with 5 yes votes and 1 abstention by Director Ortiz.
Then our next order of business is executive session. It is my understanding, Karen, that there's no executive session today. Am I correct?
You are correct. There's no executive session today.
Our next order of business is board matters. Let's start with agenda item 5A. I will now entertain a motion to approve an ordinance fixing the salary of Rosa Y. Ortiz as a temporary member of the Chicago Transit Board.
So moved.
Second.
I'll take a roll call vote on that item. Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Ortiz,
I will abstain.
Director Irvine,
Yes.
Director Silva,
Yes.
Director Jakes,
Yes.
Chairman Barkley.
Yes.
That motion is approved with 5 yes votes and 1 abstention by Director Ortiz.
Our next board matter is item 5B. I will now entertain a motion to approve an ordinance appointing members and chairs to certain standing committees of the Chicago Transit Board.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Miller, seconded by Director Irvine. The vote on 5B. Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Ortiz,
Yes.
Director Irvine,
Yes.
Director Silva,
Yes.
Director Jakes,
Yes.
Chairman Barkley.
Yes.
That motion is approved, sir, with 6 yes votes.
For our next board matter item on the agenda, I'd like to take a moment to recognize General Counsel Karen Simons, who, as many of you know, is retiring at the end of this month after 11 years of providing excellent legal counsel and guidance to the board and to the Chicago Transit Authority. Karen, on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank you for your service and dedication to the CTA. Your guidance was extremely helpful to me in my transition into the chairman's seat. And your advice and insight on matters coming before the board has been crucial to our decision-making process, particularly during this time as an agency faces unprecedented challenges of the ongoing pandemic. I think I can safely speak for my fellow board members in saying that we will miss you. And we wish you all the best in your future endeavors. We'd like to honor you with a resolution in recognition of your exemplary service. Greg, would you please read the resolution?
Yes, I would be happy to read this for my good friend Karen. Resolution of appreciation to General Counsel Karen G. Simons. Whereas Karen Simons has served as general counsel of the Chicago Transit Authority for 11 years, making her the longest tenured general counsel in the agency's history. Whereas throughout her tenure, Karen Simons has provided excellent legal counsel and guidance to the Chicago Transit Board and to the authority. And whereas Karen Simons has managed an array of complex litigation and appeals to ensure that lawsuits and claims were resolved favorably to the authority. Whereas Karen Simons has been instrumental in the successful implementation of major agency initiatives. And whereas Karen Simons provided crucial support to help the authority secure over $400 million in federal transportation, infrastructure, finance, and Innovation Act loans used for critical infrastructure projects, the 5th Street Terminal Improvement Project, the Blue Project, and city's rail car replacement. And whereas Karen Simons was instrumental in working with City Hall and Springfield in creating a landmark transit tax increment financing district to provide over $600 million in funding for the Red Purple Modernization Project. And whereas Karen Simons has provided sound guidance in the authority's development and expansion of the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act program for the small and disadvantaged business enterprise programs to improve job and contracting opportunities for a diverse workforce on CTA projects. And whereas Karen Simons has demonstrated steady and innovative leadership of the CTA's law department, making herself available to the 120 attorneys and staff in her charge of support, encouragement, and guidance. And whereas Karen Simons created an ethics and compliance division within the CTA's law department, which under her leadership secured CTA's first perfect score on the Federal Transit Administration Triennial Review in 2016. And whereas as general counsel, Karen Simons developed and oversaw a robust CTA legal intern program that provides law students 700 times faster practical legal experience and job opportunities post-graduation. Whereas a committed advocate for professional development, Karen Simons has mentored and encouraged attorneys to do their best to expand their professional experiences and has been instrumental in the professional growth and achievements of those that she has worked with over the years. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the members of the Chicago Transit Board recognize the extraordinary impact that Karen Simons provided to the Chicago Transit Authority and the region's public transportation system. Be it further resolved that the members of the Chicago Transit Board thank Karen Simons for her services and dedication to the Chicago Transit Authority and her leadership of the law department for the past 11 years. And in conclusion, be it further resolved that the members of the Chicago Transit Board wish Karen Simons the best in all of her future endeavors.
Thank you, Greg. Before I entertain a motion on this resolution, I'd like to open the floor to the board members and to President Carter to give remarks recognizing Karen's career here at the CTA.
Thank you,
Chairman,
Chairman. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Director Miller.
Thank you, Chairman Barkley. And yeah, I just want to join the team in saying thank you, Karen. It's certainly been a pleasure, and for your leadership and your professionalism. We're going to miss you, and just look like it's not time for you to go. But we just say thank you, Happy New Year, and God bless you.
And I'm going to jump back on that. Karen, it's been such fun to work with you. You've done a great job leading that legal team and done so much for the CTA. And it's been a pleasure to work with you. And I've appreciated all the chance we've had to, work on everything over the time you've been at CTA. I'm going to miss you. I'm definitely going to miss your steady hand on the legal team. And you have no doubt earned your retirement and whatever you do in the years to come. But we're going to miss you. It's not going to be the same around here without you. So thank you. And please enjoy your time off and don't log into our meetings once you're gone.
Karen, I am really going to miss you. You made life very simple for me. And the reason why you made life simple was because when I first came on the board and hearing all of the acronyms and things of that nature and trying to catch up, you very lovingly poured it in a cup I could drink from. So, it has been a joy. Typically my experience has been that people say you'll have some hard shoes to fill. And, I've never believed in that. I will say, though, that because your shoes can't be filled, but I do hope that the next general counsel will definitely follow in your footsteps, because you have indeed made some indelible impact on CTA in general and me personally. So congratulations, enjoy. And I look forward in the near future being able to banter with you because you have quick wit.
Karen, I'd like to say thank you as well. I know it's been a short run on my end to have engaged with you, but I recognize what 11 years can be in terms of a commitment to an organization. And by everything that everyone else has shared, I know your time has made a huge impact on the agency. So thank you. And I do hope and know that all of the work that you've done throughout these 11 years will be felt in all of the upcoming sessions that we'll have the opportunity to work with. So thank you for seeding great seeds that will hopefully outlast for a number of more years to come. Thank you.
I don't know if Director Silva wanted to say anything, but if not, I'll make a few remarks.
Oh, I will make a remark. I will really miss Karen, and we will miss you all. Okay, I mean, you really are great, and have a very, very, very nice retirement. Thank you, Karen.
So let me say a few words about Karen. As the president of CTA, the relationship between the president and the general counsel really is probably the most important relationship I have outside of the one that I have with the chairman. My ability to move forward with the vision that I have for this agency and to be able to successfully implement it is so much intertwined with Karen's ability to deliver on the legal issues and the strategic work that needs to happen to bring these things to fruition. And, I want to give a little bit of history of the relationship between Karen and I, because it actually goes back before my time here at CTA as president. I first met Karen about 11 years ago when she first started at CTA, and I was at FTA as the chief counsel. And Karen, who had taken on this position with no real background in transit, made what was probably a very smart and prudent move. She reached out to someone who she felt would be very knowledgeable about what she needs to know and what she needs to do. And Karen and I, struck up a relationship from day one based on that. one of the things that I found interesting in the resolution that Greg read was the work that Karen did on the financial side in terms of our innovative financing projects. And that work also has a special connection with me and Karen because it was during one of the deals that Karen was working on that she came out to Washington, D.C., and I got to meet her in person for the very first time. Karen, Mike McLaughlin, and myself had dinner at a restaurant not far from my office. And over the course of that dinner and over more than one bottle of wine, one starts to speculate about the future and what one might do if certain things were to occur. And certainly one of the things that we speculated about was whether or not I would ever come back to CTA. And Karen said something back then that has always struck with me throughout my entire tenure here, which was that if I came back to CTA, she would love to stay on as general counsel to work with me. I told Karen at the time that you need to stay on as general counsel as long as you don't leave before I do. Well, Karen didn't hold up her end of the bargain, but she has put in more than her fair share of time at CTA, and certainly I have appreciated the work she's done for me. I had a moment to reflect this morning on how many general counsels I've worked with during my time at CTA. And the number is pretty astonishing, actually. I've worked with 7 different general counsels over the periods of time that I've been here, which says something about the longevity of what Karen has accomplished here at CTA. This position is not a position that tends to have a lot of longevity to it, but I think it's a reflection of Karen's acumen, her knowledge, her ability to work with others, her ability to be strategic in her approach to dealing with issues that has allowed Karen to be so successful here at CTA, working under 2 different presidents over the course of her tenure. And I, for one, will be forever grateful to have Karen not only as my general counsel, but also as a colleague and a friend. She has been a confidant. She has been an advisor. She has been someone who has, argued with me because, believe it or not, I'm probably not the easiest client in the world to have. But in spite of all of that, I've always appreciated, acknowledged, and benefited from Karen's knowledge and experience. And I have no doubt that this will be a hole that will be very big to fill. And what I view as a critical aspect of what I use to be successful here at CTA. So Karen, I believe that we have a little something that I wanted to give you from the president's office in recognition of all the work that you have done with me and with my team, that we felt was appropriate to show how much we have enjoyed working with you as general counsel. And so someone should be delivering that to you right now. There you go. So Karen, that is from the president's office in recognition of your work and support of me personally and my office. And as I indicated, I will be forever thankful for all the contributions, the sacrifices, the hard work that you've put in on behalf of CTA. And I wish you nothing but the best and a well-deserved time off to enjoy your life and to spend time doing things other than dealing with me and my issues at CTA on a daily basis. Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you, President Carter. Karen, we invited one other special guest, Joe Biden. Unfortunately, was unable to attend, but he sent the next best person to congratulate you. And I'd like to have former Chairman Terry Peterson, who's joining us this morning, congratulate you as well. Welcome, Terry.
Good morning, everyone. President
Good morning.
Carter, I'm trying to think, I'm off mute. President Carter, Chairman Barclay, hopefully and the directors. Hopefully you can see me. Happy New Year to everyone. Karen, I could not allow this moment to pass by. I will say to you, we could talk later about what I said to you yesterday was true, but after I talked with you, guess what I did next? So we'll talk about that afterwards. But I wanted to just call in and say that 10 of those 11 years was spent with me. And I can't thank Karen enough for all of the guidance, help that she provided. But more importantly, one of the things that stands out is that we became good friends. I think Dorwell talked about that a little bit. Not only was she my general counsel, but we became friends. And then something Director Jake said about her quick wit, and more importantly, her ability to put things in layman's terms so that you would understand them. And the thing that I love most about Karen, she was a can-do kind of person. Let's figure it out. Let's see how we can get home on it. And I was fortunate too that she had dual reporting, both to the president as well as to the chair of the board. And Karen, I just wanted to say you're not retiring. You're actually starting another chapter. I get an opportunity now, since you're not working, to call you and hopefully have an opportunity to see you more, but I could not allow this opportunity to call in and say thank you for the 10 years of service when I was there. I look forward to continuing our friendship after you leave, but everything that has been said has been well deserved. You're just awesome. That's the only thing I can say. You're awesome. And again, you're not retiring. As you can see from what's on the screen, I failed that retirement. I've started a new career, and I know you will start one. So it's just great to see everyone. I don't want to take up too much time, but I wanted Karen to know how much I care about her, how much I appreciate her. And I also just wanted to thank her for the 10 years that I was there at CTA, for the guidance, the counseling, and the support she provided to me.
Thank you, Chairman Peterson. Karen, would you like to say a few words?
Well, you know, I'm never going to turn down that opportunity. Thank you all so much. What former Chairman Peterson is not mentioning is it took him years to call me by the right name as opposed to my predecessor's name, but we won't go there. That's in the past. And so is this 11 years. When I came to CTA in December of 2010, it was during a mayoral transition. And I said to my daughter, okay, this is going to be a little rough. I'm going to work some long hours, but don't worry, I'm not going to be in this job for long. She's 21 now. 3 presidents, 2 chairmen, and 11 years has gone by like that, which is why I have to get out of here. I had 25 years of experience when I came to the CTA. I knew a little about a lot of things, but as President Carter said, I didn't know anything about transit. And I have to say, I wasn't sure I was ever going to understand completely how the flow chart for how CTA's state funding is calculated. Please don't ask me to explain it now. On the federal side of things, I did have President Carter as my mentor very early on. And yes, wine goes a long way with a mentor. And I would call him even when he was on vacation and bounce crazy ideas off of him. Like, I know we can't score DBE participation, but can we give points to vendors for their historical commitment to DBE and or workforce programs for disadvantaged workers, something that the CTA does today. Then in 2015, that mentor, the second lawyer I've had as a boss, came to CTA, and the next day the yellow line fell down. There's always catastrophes, but we always get through them. I'm grateful for many things. I've reported to 2 chairmen, most recently you, Chairman Barkley, and to many board members, including those today. You all consistently are fully engaged and eager to learn everything about CTA. Each of you have your own unique special interest and you ask hard questions. All of this makes the CTA better. I got a lot of life lessons from Chairman Peterson concerning the use of not vinegar, but honey. But when a vinegary letter needed to be written, he always reached out to me. For all of us, he emphasized the value of the elevator speech, and I don't want to violate that today. I thank the law department every day. I make one tiny correction to the ordinance. We do not have 120 lawyers, only 55 remarkable lawyers, and the rest are remarkable staff without whom we couldn't function. If people think I've done anything, it's not me, it's really them. It's never been a stronger department that I'm leaving, and it will continue to provide excellent service and representation. And for my fellow chiefs, VPs, everybody else who gives CTA its heart and soul, you're incredible. What a thrill it's been to be on your team. The depth of the commitment that you have to CTA is inspiring. Each of you in your own way is a CTA cowboy, willing to do whatever the situation requires to provide safe and reliable service to our customers now and into the future. I have real friendships with so many of you, and I will miss that day to day. I'm confident that with the leadership, commitment, and talent right here in this virtual room and throughout the organization, along with all the other people in the organization, that you will all get CTA right side up as the pandemic subsides. And I wish for each one of you everything that's good going forward, including health for yourself and your loved ones. For me, I'm going to take a little time to contemplate my next adventure. Thank you. It's been really fun.
Thank you, Karen. Now I will entertain a motion to approve the resolution of appreciation to General Counsel Karen G. Simon.
So move.
I second.
Moved by Director Miller, seconded by Director Irvine. The motion. Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Ortiz,
Yes.
Director Irvine,
The hearty yes for me.
Director Silva,
Yes.
Director Jakes.
Yes, but with the caveat that we changed those numbers that Karen mentioned about the 55 and, because she's very detailed and, make sure we get that change. But yes.
Chairman Barkley.
Resounding yes.
And let me respond to what both Karen and Director Jake said, because I deliberately read this slowly so that every word was clear. That whereas clause actually says making yourself available to the 120 attorneys and staff. I'm sure I stopped after attorneys, but the resolution does say attorneys and staff. So actually was correct. It was probably, I stopped a little bit after attorneys and we didn't get it. So anyway, so the vote's in, six yes votes on that motion, Chairman Barkley. So we can proceed. Thank you.
Our next order of business is a report from the Committee on Strategic Planning and Service Delivery. Director Irvine.
Thank you, Chairman Barkley. The Committee on Strategic Planning and Service Delivery met earlier this morning via Zoom video teleconference. The committee approved the May 12th, 2021 committee minutes. The committee also reviewed an ordinance authorizing name changes for bus routes number 146 Inner Drive / Michigan Express and number 147 Outer Drive Express, and placed it on the omnibus and recommended board approval of the omnibus. And that concludes my report, Chairman Barkley.
Thank you, Director Irvine. Our next order of business is a report from the Committee of Finance, Audit, and Budget. Director Silva.
The Committee on Finance, Audit, and Budget met earlier this morning via Zoom video teleconference. The committee approved the December 15, 2021 committee minutes. The committee reviewed the finance report. The committee also reviewed 4 ordinances. An ordinance authorizing a co-promotional advertising trade agreement with Bank of America for the 2022 Bank of America Shamrock Shuffle. An ordinance authorizing a purchase and sale agreement with Sterling Racine LLC for the sale of authority property located at 120 North Racine Avenue, Chicago, Illinois. An ordinance authorizing amendment to a sublease between Sterling Racine LLC for the sale of authority property located at 120 North Racine, Chicago, Illinois. An ordinance authorizing the purchase of underground storage tank insurance for policy year January 28, 2022 through January 28, 2023. The committee also reviewed 5 contracts. The committee approved all 4 ordinances and all 5 contracts and placed them on the omnibus and recommended for approval of the omnibus. That concludes my report, Chairman Barclay.
Thank you, Director Silva. May I now have a motion to approve the omnibus as stated by Directors Irvine and Silva?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Miller, seconded by Director Irvine to vote on the omnibus. Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Ortiz,
Yes.
Director Irvine,
Yes.
Director Silva,
Yes.
Director Jakes,
Yes.
Chairman Barclay.
Yes.
That motion is approved with 6 yes votes. And before we proceed, let me just say that I know at least one member of the board might have a time crunch. And since we've now taken the last vote on any matter, if that board member does have to leave before the end of the meeting, please go right ahead because we will have the votes to adjourn because there are no further votes. So with that, Chairman Barclay, you may proceed.
Thank you.
Our next order of business is the construction report. Bill Mooney.
Good morning again. I'm Bill Mooney, your Chief Infrastructure Officer with your monthly construction update. We'll begin where we normally do, our Jefferson Park to O'Hare Signals project. The project remains tight to schedule and on budget. Since we last met, we completed the cutover of River Road crossover just south of Rosemont Station. This is the last of kind of the diamond special work that we have that we call emergency crossovers, and we've moved towards the 2 kind of large scale implementations of the project, the next one being O'Hare, which will be beginning in the next upcoming month. If we can move to the photos. So last month I mentioned as part of the O'Hare cutover, we actually are installing a temporary signal system that will operate under for about 120 days while we're in the process of installing and commissioning the new signal system. So here's a photo of the new temporary signal system up there that's currently in the commissioning process and getting ready to be put in service later this month. Next slide. And again, here's kind of some examples of that work going on with that temporary signal system and an employee in the process of testing it and some of the wayside apparatuses associated with this temp equipment. Next slide, please. And one of the items we continue to work on is, as we've commissioned all these relay houses and diamond interlockings along the way, we have to go back and complete kind of work list items. So one of those items is the commissioning of the fire retention systems. As these are high-driven computer systems, they actually have dry fire chem systems, and they require kind of a special commissioning process that goes with those. So here's an example of one at Central Relay House, which is near Jefferson Park. Next slide, please. My next project is Refresh and Renewed, and I'm very excited to announce that we completed the goal of all 35 stations by end of year. It was a really daunting program to go after, almost double what we typically do in a year, but I can't say enough about the dedication of the trade workforce and the management team that were able to execute this. Separate from that, we continue to, the SBE painting program as now we go into the winter months. It will be on hiatus for a few months, and we'll revisit this project in the spring with a new goal for 2022 to go after for stations and the completion of these SBE painting stations. I'd also like to highlight that we completed directional line diagram signage by the trades. So we've addressed that issue that was outstanding for a while, and I'm really excited to have that resolved as well. So if we can move to some of the photos. So as we've talked kind of a couple of times, we took a step back from just the station itself and looked at the customer experience as you approach the station. So this is Cumberland as you approach from the parking garage and the bus terminal. So as you kind of approach the station frontage, we improved that frontage, scraped it, cleaned it, and painted, as well as improved the lighting. Next slide. Here's some of the work that's been going on in the subway stations. These are really challenging stations. As I've talked kind of with some of the track projects, lots of water intrusions. So a lot of the work here was cleaning up around the water intrusions, sealing, and then ultimately, increasing the lighting and touching those pain points and those high touch points. Next slide. Here's another example at Clinton, kind of that crust, the crown, and some of those cleanup lines, and how much a difference really that kind of touch point improvement does. Next slide, please. And this is 63rd and Ashland. So you can kind of see kind of the, I would call out kind of the ceiling. They got up on the ceiling of the station itself, scraped out the ceiling, cleaned up those lines, painted and improved the lighting here, as well as some of the other high touch points. This is one of the SBE contract points. Next slide. And then here's another example at Halstead. This would be the auxiliary exit. So not just only the prime focal points, the entrance to the stations or the platforms, but also kind of those other street level access points that we do have. Next slide, please. And here's again another example of that SB painting at street level. My next projects are Jackson Park Track and Structures project. The project moves forward on budget, on schedule. We've moved into what we call 61st interlocking, which is just south of kind of Garfield, between Garfield and King Drive on the branch, and it facilitates movement in and out of a couple rail yards there. It's a little key piece of infrastructure, and as such, it's a little more complicated to do the time renewal there. And we've continued forward with the structure work. So if we can move on to some of the photos. Here's some examples of that tie replacement in the interlocking proper. You can see kind of with all the special work that sits on top of it, the rail and those switch points, how much more complicated it is to get those ties in and out. And here's an example of some of the work they're doing using equipment. We're directly adjacent to a yard there, so we'll be able to use some of our rail-borne equipment even around train service here to help move some of that stuff around. Next slide. And then, over the series of the next couple months, we're moving towards a series of kind of track access occurrences to facilitate major structural renewal on the Jackson Park branch. And these are actually what we call cross girders. So it's the perpendicular beams that the parallel beams connect to, ultimately the columns are attached to. And they're actually over the street. So to be able to do this work, we actually have to go in under weekend line cuts, completely disassemble them, rehab them, and then put them back together and open up the street within 54 hours. And so this is a really tedious work window, at times not having a ability to kind of walk away for the weather. As this last weekend, they were doing some work out there and had to work straight through cold and sleet and other such things. But here's some of that work going on. You can see kind of how disruptive it is at street level. We do get a closure of 63rd Street, as well as kind of a line cut for the work. Next slide, please. This is our South Shops waste material storage and sewer upgrade. The project is complete at this point, with the last piece being the waste material storage building. And this will be the last month I'll be reporting on it, so we can move to some photos of that building itself. So I've been showing you kind of the progress. So this is the interior lighting that was installed for it. Next slide. Here's ultimately the fencing that goes kind of above those concrete walls that were constructed, and then kind of the finished facade edge of the roof. And then the last slide gives you a sense of what the whole thing looks like all put together with its signage. Kind of an important aspect to support the facilities out there. And with that, I'll pause for a second. And JP, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about the DBE participation.
Thanks, Bill. We did set a 25% goal on this work order. The contractor committed to 28.6%. They're currently above their commitment, and we're confident that they will meet their commitment through final payment. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Chris. Does that conclude your presentation, Bill?
No, Greg, I have a couple more projects to go.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Go right ahead.
So our next projects are Dan Ryan inverters. As I mentioned last month, we're moving into the commissioning phase, and we're just finishing up at 23rd Street. So here we go with a couple photos. Similar to what you've seen over the last couple months, we fly in kind of an independent structural platform that gets attached to these relay houses to provide for the isolation. Here you can see kind of that equipment attached to it and being put in place. Next slide. Here is kind of that process of attaching it to the platform and then wiring up all that equipment at 23rd, which was the last of the relay houses we're working at. And over this next month, we actually are commissioning all these systems to put in service. So next month will be kind of the last time we talk about this project as well. Next slide, please. This is our Irving Park Station escalator and canopy replacement project, and we've been working forward. Really got advantage with some great weather in December to complete the canopy, top level canopy painting and get it prepped for the new canopy itself, as well as we're moving forward in the next couple weeks to close the Irving Park entrance there to start demolition and installation of the new escalator on the Irving Park side of the station, which is kind of a key point of the project. a couple photos for you here of that work. So here is the priming and painting. You've seen a couple of this over the last month, but again, with the weather in December being so great, we were able to get kind of all that resolved out. So we'll be moving into the canopy installation in early February. Next slide. And my last project today is our non-revenue rail and vehicle facility shop. We move forward kind of with the preparatory ground earthwork for the bigger work to come. So here's a couple slides on this. Here we're doing soil borings to find out kind of the compaction rates of the soil and as they finalize the structural design and get that through approvals. And here's another example of soil boring on site. This also allows them to get a sense of kind of what's in the ground itself. Next slide, please. So they can plan for the appropriate use of the earth as they remove it. And with that, I'll be glad to take any questions.
Thank you, Bill. Chairman Barkley?
I'm sorry, no questions.
Okay, thanks, Chairman. Director Jakes?
No questions.
Director Miller? Director Miller might have stepped away because he did have to do something. I don't see him on the screen. So Director Ortiz?
I don't have any questions. I do have comments. I'm glad to see the DVE participation and encouragement on these projects. And I'm glad the weather in December was well and we were able to advance a lot of the work. I'm sure that was really helpful throughout this winter season. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Irvine?
No questions. Just, kudos to you and your team for all the great work. And thank you for getting that directional line diagram project finished on this past year. So awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Director.
I'm sorry. Director Silva?
No questions.
Thank you. Chairman Barkley, we're finished with any questions for Bill Mooney.
So our next order of business, we'll call on Chris Bell and Juan Pablo Prieto to make the RPM and diversity presentations.
Thank you, Chairman. Welcome, directors, President, General Counsel, and a special welcome to new Director Ortiz. The RPM project, I'm Chris Bushell, your Chief RPM Officer. The RPM project continues tight to schedule and on budget. Primary activities since we've last reported have mostly to do with the bypass. We've been very busy in the area of the Belmont Station, just to the north of the Belmont Station, installing various pieces of elevated track work. We've also made good use of the weather over the course of the winter so far. We've been able to install miscellaneous pieces of track work that ultimately help put the trains onto the east side of the tracks. There's 4 tracks in that area. We have put in track work that sort of shifts those trains over to the east side so that we can start to do demolition of the west side. As many of you know, we've successfully completed the bypass, which is the bridge over, and now we're starting to work on the existing tracks under. Likewise, on the Lawrence to Bryn Mawr segment, we've continued to advance demolition. We're really complete with demolition on the west side of the tracks. We have started as well the installation of the new bridge. You'll see some photographs of the segmented box girder and the various segments progressing there. So if we could go to the next slides. So cut and throw work, what does it mean? It's really just elevated track work. You saw some pictures of Bill's crews doing it. Up here, we're really just rearranging the tracks, if you will, in this area temporarily. So that we can begin work on one side, or more accurately, that we can put trains on one side of the 4 tracks, on 2 of the 4 tracks, and then we can start working on the 2 that aren't running trains. So the cut and throws are a piece of track work that enable us to do that. Next, please. Micropile foundations, the installation of various micropile foundations to support the future track work that we'll be installing or to support temporary construction of track work in the RPB area. This is really just a deep foundation that's drilled into the ground. There's a series of micropiles that are put in rather than a caisson. There's sort of smaller foundations that are ultimately kind of grouped together right at the top with a cap, and then we put a structure on them. They tend to go down roughly 80 feet to either typically to bedrock or just before bedrock. Next. Picture of the demolition near Lawrence. You can see an older piece of structure that was ultimately buried in this embankment in the 80s or 90s. We're obviously uncovering it, removing it, and installing an entirely new structure through this area. So this is just a picture of the demolition of that. Next. Columns in the Lawrence to Bryn Mawr area. So as I mentioned, we're installing this new type of bridge. It's a segmented box girder bridge, not commonly done in the state of Illinois in any case, but commonly used for transit across the world. This type of bridge enables us to have sort of longer spans than we would ordinarily have with the older steel structure, and is a more efficient and less impactful way to build. So we're in the process of installing the segmented box girder on various of these column caps in the Lawrence to Bryn Mawr area. If we go to the next slide. This is some temporary work, kind of at the north end of the Lawrence to Bryn Mawr segment. It's funny when we say temp work, it looks probably to the world like permanent, but it really is this piece of steel will not be there. It actually was more efficient to build this temporary bridge than to bring a very large crane in there because of some of the site constraints. So that bridge enables us to begin to feed the segments, the segmented box girder concrete segments, to the loading gantry, which is positioned to the south. This is in the area of Ardmore Street, up in the Lawrence to Bryn Mawr area. Next. And despite the weather, it's been good, but regardless, we've continued, and despite COVID, to do an online or virtual outreach process. That includes weekly meetings with both the 44th and the 48th Ward, reaching out and informing them of upcoming construction, looking for opportunities to work with the businesses in the project footprint in order to minimize impact, not only of our project, but also to support those businesses in light of the significant impacts they've seen due to COVID. I would say the other significant thing, we've worked with Uptown United on an event in the area of Wilson, again, promoting the project, informing people of the various impacts that they've seen. We recently had a virtual meeting with the, in regard to some work we're doing in the Red Purple modernization area, some upcoming demolition with the Roscoe Newport neighbors, as well as some of the folks that live to the north and to the east of them. That was very successful. And again, we continue, despite the pandemic, to do lots of virtual meetings and outreach. Noting all that, I'd like to turn it over to Juan Pablo to talk about some of our extensive workforce SBE DBE efforts.
Thank you, Chris. Good morning again, directors. Juan Pablo Prieto, Director of Diversity Programs. The Diversity Program team continues to meet monthly with the contractor to discuss DBE and workforce outreach and compliance. These meetings serve as a great tool to assure all of our units are aligned as we conduct separate meetings throughout the month related to individual trade packages and workforce opportunities. We also meet regularly with our workforce partners, the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership and Hire 360, and the contractor to coordinate opportunities and recruitment and training efforts. As of December 31st, 2021, 71 unique DBEs have been awarded over $198 million on the design build contract. 25 of those DBE firms are new to CTA. The design build contract has also produced over 609,000 labor hours, and the over 1,300 individuals that have worked on the project have earned over $34 million. We're proud of our efforts and attainment to date, but we continue to strive to achieve more. We will also continue to host outreach events and to present opportunities to the community. That concludes my portion of the report. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. And Chris, you're finished as well?
I am, thank you.
Okay, then for Chris and Juan Pablo, Chairman Barkley?
No questions.
Director Jakes?
No questions. Great job, guys.
Director Ortiz?
No questions.
Director Irvine?
No questions. Yeah, great work. Thank you.
Director Silva?
No questions. Great job.
All right, we're finished with questions then for the construction report and Chris and JP, Chairman Barkley.
Thank you. Our next order of business is new business. Any new business, Grant?
No, sir, there was none.
Since there's no further business to come before the board, may I have a motion to adjourn the Chicago Transit Board meeting of January 12th, 2022?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks for jumping right in there, Director Jakes. This one's moved by Director Jakes and seconded by Director Irvine. Director Ortiz,
Yes.
Director Irvine,
Yes.
Director Silva,
Yes.
Director Jakes.
Yes, and Chairman Barclay, thank you for the lovely Christmas gift. It added to my substantial weight loss. Thank you.
I second that.
I third that.
Better you than me.
Chairman Barclay,
Yes.
the motion to adjourn is passed with 5 yes votes. So we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.